going live yet.
Good morning, everybody. Here we are again for another Cars and Coffee. And if you're a car guy that wants to learn more about car stuff, tech, things that you won't find anyplace else, then you're in the right spot. I'm Kenny Brown, and for the next hour or so, I will try to share as much as I can from my extensive experience in professional motorsports and building great cars, and answer your questions. Of course, you could always send in questions. So this morning, I gotta get back to page one. This morning, we've got going to talk a little bit about April showers, seeing this is April. And during the Transformer Driving Experience workshop, we had some questions on brakes. And also, I think Rich has been getting some emails and questions on big brakes and wheels. So I'm going to talk about the things you need to look for if you're going to put big brakes on your car, what you have to be cognizant of with your wheels. And then we've got a special guest, Steve Callistini, who is a Speed Therapy Academy alumni, is going to tell you a little bit about his experience in the academy. By the way, I've got my up there, the Speed Therapy Academy shirt. Pardon?
Starts the 20th.
Oh, it starts April 20th. And we'll talk about that more a little bit later on. Let's see, we got some great questions this morning. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, click. I got that right. Facebook, like and share with your friends. If you think that I talk about things they'd be interested, please go ahead and share. And then also, like I said, if you got questions this morning, send them in. I'm curious how many people are with us this morning that were part of the Speed Transform Your Driving Experience workshop. Let me know, because it'd be nice to see you again. If you did not weren't able to make the Transform Your Driving Experience workshop, guess what? It's good luck. I mean, you're in luck, not good luck. You're in luck. We're going to play reruns all tomorrow, I believe.
Sunday. Yeah, Sunday.
All Sunday. And all you have to do is register. There should be a click somewhere that you can register. And you can see all the reruns 1 through 3. And then you'll also be able to see the bonus session we're going to have Monday night. So if you didn't catch it during the week, or you're busy, click on, we're going to run them all day tomorrow so you can see all 3. And then we're going to have another bonus session Monday night that you'll be able to see as well. So I see some questions, comments coming up that we had a great workshop. Yeah, I thought so. And like I say, I hope you guys enjoyed it and learned something, because that's the whole idea. Let's see. Let's move over through it. Down with page 1, on to page 2. Oh, art this month. Let's see, what do we got? This is another one of my favorites. I got so many cool. This is obviously a GT40 at Le Mans, and this is the one driven by Chris Amon. In fact, he signed it right there. And that's the one. It's kind of like, I won't go into the story, but it's kind of a weird story how that turned out. Henry Ford wanted a photo finish with the 3 cars, and the car that crossed the finish line first actually was not awarded the win, because it started 30 meters further down the track. So the car that was actually, I guess it was Ken Miles, didn't get the win because anyway, one car started 30 meters further on the track. So the good old French FIA decided that car went 30 meters more than the other cars. And you can look it up. It's kind of an interesting story, but it's a really cool piece. Another one of my Nicholas Watt pieces of art. Okay, we got some pretty good questions this morning. Let's see. I'm going to start with Alex and say, I have a 2019 Camaro SS1 LE. So I can talk cars no matter what it is. If it's a car, we can talk cars. So I'm glad to see we've got some people other than Mustangs, because what I talk about with Mustangs is applicable to every car. And if you've got a different kind of car and you want to know a little bit more direction, just sign up for one of my 15-minute consults so we can chat about it. Anyway, he's got the 2019 Camaro SS1 LE, and he's looking to optimize stock class autocross. He said, should the factory 12-inch wheels work okay? Okay, that's a good question. Actually, it sent me to do a little research. The way I view things is we use 18-inch wheels for racing because 98% of all race tires are 18-inch, and all the sanctioning bodies require 18-inch race tires. So for racing, we use 18-inch wheels. For street cars and track days, I use 19s because there's a nice selection of tires. Plus, they've got a little taller tire than as far as the 20s. The 20s I always look at for show. However, I went and looked, and there is a ton of really good tires for 20-inch wheels. So I would say, yeah, just make sure you get the best tire you can for that application. I'm not sure what the tire regulations are. A lot of them say you have to run a 200 tread wear. So I'd kind of shop around on that. I mean, the only difference between 19-inch is the taller sidewall gives you a little better forward bite. That's the only reason I would use 19s. And if you think about it, drag race cars have tiny wheels and huge tires that kind of wrap up. So yeah, they'll work fine. Just get a good tire on there. That's it. All boils down to the tire. A good tire makes all the difference. Let's see, Christopher. This is another one. Can I cover S550 wheel fitment, 1910 front, 1911 rear, and the topic of spacers and ARP extended studs. Really wonder if a 1910 and 1911 up front, should he go with a square setup for the track? You can do either one. Typically, our typical setup for any of our street car track cars is 1910 front, 1911 rear, typically with a 285/35 on the front, and then on the back, depending on the car and the power, either a 295/30 or a 305/30. And that seems to work pretty darn good. You can put wider tires on the front, but then you're always, depending on what kind of wheel you have, what the back spacing is, you always could be struggling for wheel clearance, either on the outside or the inside. So yeah, 1910, 1911. I mean, that's what we use on almost everything. All the 550 cars, all 197 cars. That's my base wheel package. Let's see. And with those, if you get the right wheels, you don't need spacers. I know that for some wheels, you do have to add spacers. If you have to add a spacer that's more than 1/8 of an inch, you need to go to the ARP long studs, and they've got them, I think, in a couple different sizes. But you never want to have a situation where you screw the lug nut on and you don't have any threads on the studs sticking out. If that's the case, you need to get longer studs. Also, what we talked about in the workshop is if you're taking your wheels off and on a lot, put just a little bit of anti-seize on the threads. That does a couple things. One, it's going to make the studs and the lugs last longer, because if you think about it, when you put a lug nut on, it's like steel on steel. So you put a little anti-seize on there, and it's a teeny bit of lubrication, and you also get a lot better torque value. You don't have to torque them quite as high. So yeah, and that way, you take them on and off, and you're not going to wear out your lug nuts. Let's see, and then we're going to talk about wheels and big brakes here in a minute. Let's see, Ernie wants to know about identifying bolts. We did in the Transformer Driving Experience workshop, I talked a little bit, just a teeny bit, about hardware, and I guess it was really good information for a number of people. So Ernie is asking that I do it again. So what I talked about is the hardware that we use for everything is called grade 8, and that's like Super Duty, and you can tell a grade 8 by see the little marks on there. That is a grade 8 bolt. We don't use grade 5. I had to look to come up with a grade 5 bolt. The only grade 5 bolts we use are this little teeny one. And grade 5 has like 3. See the 3 little marks on there? That'd be a grade 5. The only one we use, this is for SN95 brake ducts, just to bolt them on, because there's no stress or strain. So, grade 5 is fine. If you have a bolt that has nothing on the head, throw it away. It's junk. Grade 5 works for most applications, but we use grade 8 just because it's super strong. The other thing that you kind of look at is, I like to use fine threads versus coarse. Okay, it doesn't go through very good, does it? The thing about fine threads and coarse, if you got something that's going to have any shear potential on it, if you look at a coarse bolt, you've got all these grooves, which are potential shear points. but you look at a fine bolt, and there's, you know, the amount of shear points are less and shallower. So the potential, if this is in a spot where shear, potential shear, then, you know, you want to go to fine thread. And then we always use good old lock nuts, nylock. Nylock nuts, because once you torque them down, they stay. You rarely have to retorque a nylock nut. If you use it 3 or 4 times and it goes on really easy, throw it away and get another one. Now on the metric side, the equivalent to grade 8 is a 10.9. I think you can see that. That's the metric equivalent to 10.9. And there, as far as the fine and coarse thread, there's not the selection in metric that we find in standard bolts. We have to go with the thread size. That's pretty common. But the same token, we're using the grade 8/grade 10.9. And then and of course, there's our trusty nylock nut. And then the other part of it's the washers. Now there's 2 size washers. This is SAE. This is what we use most of. And then there's USS, which is more for structural. If you want to spread the load of the bolt over a bigger surface, you use the USS. Otherwise, for most applications, we use SAE. So that's kind of a little bit on hardware that we talked about in the workshop in coffee time. So what else do we have? Oh, I guess that's all the questions. So we need to get into what we're going to talk about today. The April showers, I think, was in the newsletter. In spring, a young man's fancy turns towards cars, and April brings showers. So just a couple of tips on if you're at the track and you're driving in the rain on track. First thing you want to do is if you got sway bars, unhook your sway bars. You want to soften up the car as much as possible for rain driving, whether you're racing or if you're doing a track day in the rain. The other thing is you've got adjustable shocks. Take all the bump out and most of the rebound. You want to go just full soft on everything, and then it's going to work a lot better, because you want the car to roll and comply. You don't want it to just slide across the slippery surface. So for rain driving, take all the stiffness out. Undo the sway bars. You don't have to completely undo both sway bars. What I typically do is I'll take one side and I'll undo the sway bar on the strut, and then I'll just take the link and put it up to the sway bar and zip tie it on, so it's just out of the way. So that's what to do for rain driving. Big wheels and big brakes. That's been coming up a lot lately, because people are interested in my Pro 4R brakes. These are race brakes. These are like super premium professional grade race brakes at half the price. When we did this, the DNA of my Pro 4R race brakes goes all the way back to my late son Paul in the World Challenge. The first race, he had the Bear 6-piston race brakes, and the SCCA said, no. See here, rules say 4-piston. So Bear went back and they made him some special 4-piston brakes for World Challenge, and of course they worked, because he dominated the series, winning all 3 championships. That brake set, those brakes, extra ones, just sat on the shelf for years. And a few years back, I started talking to Rick at Bear and said, I'd like to do something we need to do something really good. I want something that I can put my name on, that I have a lot to do with. That's a really good race setup. And he said, well, we got these left over from Paul. Why don't we start with that? So we started with, brakes that already won a national championship. And from there, we improved it significantly. We put every single feature that you can have in a race brake into the Pro 4R brakes. And if you look at the features on my Pro 4R, you have to go to something like the Brembo GTR brakes to get kind of the same feature. And they're, I think, what, $8,500, $8,800 an axle set. Mine's half the price, and we're going to show that in a minute. But it's like I wanted the best brakes I could at a price everybody could afford, and that's what we ended up with, the Pro 4R brakes. And if Carrie could pull up the brochure. Here we go. You've got the little tag on the bottom. Can that go away?
The share tag?
No, the.
No, I don't know how to do that right now.
Okay. Anyway, we'll scroll down then, and we're gonna have a link to this. So that's what the caliper looks like. I mean, it looks pretty big there. It really is a big caliper. Even though it's a 4-piston, it's a big caliper. Let's scroll down a little bit more. And then there's a good look at the underside. And what you can see here, you can see the pockets that we've taken material out to take weight out of the caliper. The thing about a 4-piston versus a 6-piston, the 4-piston caliper is lighter than a 6-piston. Plus, we go ahead and we open up a whole bunch of pockets and non-stress points to remove weight to make them even lighter. And then you can see the castellated pistons. And they're castellated so the air flows around the back of the brake pad, so you don't get as much heat transfer into the caliper. Okay, scroll up a little more. And there's kind of a view of some of the great features. And because it's a race brake, if you notice in the left upper picture, the brake pads are held in with clips. I mean, you can do a brake change in, I don't know, 30 seconds, 60 seconds tops. You just undo the clips, pop out one set of pads and pop in another. It's super easy. Like I say, these are real race brakes. So scroll down a little more, it shows the pockets. We use a banjo fitting. Scroll down, and it's held together with 6 bolts. A lot of calipers, 2-piece calipers, are held together with 4 bolts. Well, we use 6 big bolts, 7/16 hollow chrome. Yeah, you don't get anything stronger than this. As far as clamping force, I mean, these babies are just strong as can be. And then, of course, we've got an aluminum bracket, ARP studs, 12-point nuts that hold everything in place. And the rotors are also something special. This is an R-spec rotor, which means they're about 7 pounds lighter than a regular rotor, but they actually cool better. So it's an entire brake package that's pretty awesome. You can scroll down a little more. Yeah, you can see some of the pieces parts. And here's the brake pads. Now, the cool thing about the brake pads is, remember I said Paul started out with the 6-piston race brakes, and this pad actually is the 6-piston pad. This is the same pad that we used for the Hawk numbers HP 122. The same pad that we use for in our 6-piston street brakes and 6-piston race brakes. And it's a pretty big pad. The big difference is on our 6 pistons, it takes the standard 0.71 inch brake pad thickness, and this is 0.98. So basically, it's an inch thick brake pad on the front, which is pretty cool. Now the profile arch for the rear, actually we use like the standard 0.71 thick brake pad because you don't do as much braking in the back. So you can see this is a pretty cool package. So, and we will have a link, and then you can scroll down and see how reasonably it's priced. We've got them for SN95 and S197, front and rear. Although the rears, you need to talk to me because of the C-clips in the axles. You need to take care of that if you want to run big brakes in the back, and we have a number of customers that do. Okay, that's the a little on the Pro 4Rs, but here's what we're getting down to. If you get brakes, big brakes with our Pro 4Rs or 6-piston, or even the 6-pistons street performance package that we have, you're going to get a template. You can download. You get this. You download a template, and you print it off, and then I just stick it on a piece of cardboard that I had laying around, and I cut it out based off of. There's a little directions on how to cut it out based on your wheel center, and then you just place this. I guess I can see it, but you can't. You just kind of place that on the wheel like that, and if this part here, any part here hits the wheel, the spokes, or the outer edge, then the brake's not going to fit. You want to be sure you got plenty of room, and you got wheels that are set up for big brakes. And the template will help you figure that out. Yeah, template will help you figure that out. And I think we're going to put. Aren't we going to put a link up to the template too? I think.
Yeah, I think we have one.
I sent it to you.
Oh, you sent me the link?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll send it off to Brad and he'll get it up.
Okay. Yeah, I sent it to you when I sent the.
Okay. Yep, we'll get it up. It'll be a couple minutes. But
Okay. Yeah, we'll put the template up so you can see, get an example of what a template is, and that's really important if you're doing wheels. Okay. Let's see. Moving right along. Oh, Steve Callistini. We've got a little clip from Steve Callistini, which is pretty cool. Steve is alumni, graduate of the Speed Therapy Academy, and pretty smart guy. He's always had a passion for cars and racing. It goes back to his youth when his dad had a repair shop and he worked for a Ford dealership, and he got to drive like Boss 302s, and he was just enamored by it. He always wanted to be a Roger Penske, but life didn't turn out that way. He ended up going to aviation and getting into aviation. He's been there since forever. But he already knew a lot about cars and performance. But when he took the academy, I think it really surprised him how much more he could learn. So I think I'm in charge, I think, of his clip. So let's hear what Steve had to say.
Academy, just a little bit about it. It takes you into the head of a master race car designer, literally, and builder. And Kenny loves to share, and you get him going, and it just spills out information. So it's a lot of fun time just to ask questions, and it's just amazing what the man has in his head. Kenny's cars, maybe you know, won several world championships over the years, and a lot of these cars are still running around tracks with owners that are having a ball in them and really enjoying them. The program itself is really well laid out. The way it's put together and presented, you understand it, I think, pretty easily, and it makes you want to learn more. I like the way that Kenny interjects stories and where they are maybe particular situations come up, and it helps in the presentations, and it makes it really interesting. And he's got some really great stories to tell over the years. He'll actually take you along on a video ride on some of the premier racetracks of the nation and talk you through the turns. And when was the last time you had to rode along at 140 miles an hour with a professional driver talking you through the turns? It was pretty exciting times. And then this is where it gets fun. You not only learn from Kenny and his master class presenters that he'll bring in, and we'll talk about that in a second, but also from the experiences of the other classmates, others that possibly own a car like yours, and together share your experiences, trials, successes, and failures, and in the process gain guidance from Kenny and learn from their experiences. So, one of the things that when it first came up, I said, I don't have the time for this. I can't do 12 weeks or whatever. And, I've used that excuse before in my lifetime. And, but I didn't have time. But the one thing that I did know is that as a privilege as an Academy member, you'll have access to basically the videos and all of the document content for a full year after your last session. So this gives you an opportunity to go back and study over and over and over, which I have and it's already, the second time you see it, you go, wow, how did I miss that? It's almost like it's a new presentation. But there's a saying, when the teacher is ready, the student appears, or excuse me, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. As an example, I missed the last 3 classes of the session. A few weeks ago, I was down in Reno babysitting an airplane I have in for an inspection. And so I was gone for the week. But when I returned home, I was able to sit down, replay the sessions. And guess what? I learned that they even issued me a diploma. So it was good. Cost, I'm I don't know, you probably heard that the saying, if education is expensive, try ignorance. And that's so true, particularly in the industry that I work in aviation. And I'll share with you a couple of stories, but in my younger airplane mechanic years, I had moved to Oregon to start at a new shop there, and some of these airplanes I'd never seen before, so I had to learn quick what these things were all about. So I'd asked the service floor manager if I could take home the service manuals on them and read them, which I did. And I'd bring it home the next day, bring it back to work the next day, and then bring another one the next night. And the guy thought I was nuts. But I mean, that's the way I've always been. I wanted to learn. And later as a jet mechanic, I attended flight safety sessions, many of them over the years, generally 2 weeks long, 14 days of pretty intense classroom sessions and sim sessions and that. And you're looking at $15,000 for that class for 2 weeks. As a pilot, you go in to get a type rating on the same jet, and it's going to cost you $50,000 for those 2 weeks. And yeah, you get to fly a simulator and crash it and whatever, and you end up ultimately with a type rating, but that's just all part of moving forward. So education was key to my profession. So I never argued about the cost of education. So it was a no-brainer for me when the academy was announced earlier this summer, and I go, heck yeah, I'd spend whatever amount it would cost for 12 or 14-week session or class to further my knowledge of one of my passions. So, and I justified it by saying, the alternative could be, spend a lifetime on my own and never learn what I have in the 12 weeks attending this academy. Just kind of a real quick summary of maybe what the class covers over the 12 weeks. I can tell you that Kenny shares from his heart his knowledge of racing, and he invites in world-class company owners and engineers and drivers as presenters on special topics who also share their knowledge. And again, you have this all on tapes. You can go back and watch the videos again if you missed something or couldn't make the session. So you'll learn how to calculate correct size and wheels, load ratings on wheels, and the differences between racing wheels and track wheels and street wheels. Learn about brakes that are ideal for your type of driving for your vehicle, what clutches work best for your type of driving for your vehicle, engineering cooling systems, whether it's radiators for your engine, coolant systems or transmission, or even rear differentials. Learn about aircraft and hardware. I've got 50 years experience with that hardware and I know it by part number pretty much. And hose is the same thing we use in aircraft, but we also use them in race cars. And so you'll get a session just on that. And a gentleman that comes in and does presentations on hoses and heat exchangers. You'll learn about driving techniques and how to set yourself in the correct sitting position in the car. And I mean, this is all important when he comes down to it. You go, wow, why didn't I think of that? Hand position on steering wheels, helmets and racing gloves, how important those kind of things are. Where the correct shift points are in your track and the driving lines on different tracks. Hans, neck restraints, and particularly safety harnesses and the differences and why you don't want to use certain types. It gets into rollover protection for your car, different setups, chassis setups, discusses and talks about roll centers and suspension design. I mean, I can go on and on and on. Vehicle dynamics. I've got a wing on my car and a splitter, and I learned a lot about how to set that up for different track conditions and speed, and it's been very beneficial for me. Tire ratings, which is critical, types of tires that work best for the track, and all this is so you're not spending money on the wrong kind of equipment and maybe being unsafe. And one of the interesting things also is learning how to tune and troubleshoot your car while it's at the track. And that's information you're not going to get anywhere else. Nobody talks about that, and they're not going to share their knowledge. I can almost guarantee that. It's pretty protected and guarded in a lot of racing communities. So, and then there's a session on engine electronic tuning, which a lot of our newer cars, which have ECMs and that, Kenny brings in the master of tuning engines and that. This is the gentleman that wrote the book on it years ago. And then we get to setting up a race trailers, things that you never even thought of. But if you're running with a trailer, you know, just the logistics of setting up a trailer in your pit area, and then all to set up manage logbooks for your car and for the racetrack. So again, there's so much I can go on and on. So yeah, I've removed a bunch of high dollar parts from my boss and added several of Kenny Brown's engineered components and systems. And guess what? The car's faster. It's way faster. Corner's better, and I'm having even more fun than ever with my son on the track. So it's been a fun journey. Here's my guarantee: is if you attend the class and pay attention, and I'd volunteer this, that you'll save at least the amount of tuition by learning what components that'll work in your car after installing them, or rather than buying and installing high dollar components that are not going to work for your type of car or won't improve the handling or performance of your car one bit. So this is where this class, I think, really excels and performs. It gets you pointed in the right direction, and you'll have an opportunity for one-on-one guidance for your car specifically, and what you want to do with it. If you're considering enrolling in this academy, if your passion's performance or track, or just, you know, maybe pure race cars even, and particularly if you own a Ford Mustang, I'd recommend highly enrolling and start having fun. Again, Kenny's one of the most respected performance and race car engineering car builders in the country, and here's an opportunity to get around and hear, you know, understand what he knows. His cars, I was doing some research the other day. He's built several hundred cars over the years, and believe it or not, I mean, these cars are literally all over the world. And there's people out there that own these, and they're just having a great time with them. A lot of them are being tracked. A lot of them are just driven around to car shows and that. So here's your chance to get around, I think, an elite group of people and learn what few others in the world really know.
Well, there we go. We thought that was a pretty good endorsement. And Steve really has improved quite a bit since he started the class. Not only improved his car, improved his driving. And he was actually the first of our Academy alumni to get on track with the new suspension. And it made him just a little bit quicker. Took 5 seconds off his best lap time. So, I mean, yeah, does my new suspension work? Of course it does. So anyway, that's a little bit on Steve. And the thing about the Academy is don't think that it's not for me, because I'm you know, I don't know very much, and feel stupid. That's why I'm doing this. So I can take you from not knowing much to knowing a lot. And we've had, in the last class, we've had track guys, we've had just street guys that just wanted to learn more about their car for the street. So it's sort of like novice to advanced. There's something in there for everybody. And I know everybody it's done on Zoom, so I kind of see everybody. It's like the Brady Bunch. And people participate back and forth, and I get to know everybody. And it's pretty cool. I mean, if you really want to know something, if you really want to learn, sign up for the Academy, because you've heard me during the Cars and Coffee, and if you did the workshop, remember, you can click sign up for the workshop, and they're running reruns all day tomorrow. And then you can also be signed up for the bonus session on Monday night. But you've heard me hit just little teeny bits of what I know. And when it comes to the Academy, I kind of take out the plug and start dumping information on the table. So if you really want to know something, I'm more than happy to teach you. And it does become a pretty intimate setting, and it's pretty cool. Plus, there's a whole bunch of bennies that go with it for the for the Academy members afterwards. Things like discounts on brakes and pads and Kenny Brown parts, and of course, any of the Academy alumni, any of the brake pads they get, they come pre-bedded for free. So as part of it, you get a really nifty shirt. You got to stand back so you can see it. A really nifty Academy shirt. There's an Academy sticker. You get some of those too. And of course, you know how I feel about notebooks. Well, you know how I feel about notebooks. You get a Speed Therapy Academy notebook with obviously your name here. And then it comes with dividers and some graph paper and regular paper so that you can download. There's a lot of things in the resource area that you can download and keep in your notebook for future reference. So I think any additional, if you want to know more, please feel free to call in and talk to Carrie. She's the mastermind behind this program. And I think I said before, initially I was really reluctant to do this. But after we've been through the first Academy, I mean, it's pretty cool. I think she was a pretty smart lady to come up with this program. But call in, talk to her. She can talk to you about all the little bits and pieces. There's even a payment plan. There's nothing wrong with a payment plan. So did I miss anything?
I didn't tell you this, but we're going to be playing. If you enjoyed Steve's little interview, we're going to be playing some of just from the Speed Therapy Academy all weekend long. So you can just catch those on the Speed Therapy Society page or in the newsletter. So look out for the newsletter and it'll be in there. It's really interesting comments. So it's a great group. It's such a great community.
Yeah. So, what I didn't tell them, this is your part, tell them what it costs and the options.
They have to go through the workshop.
Oh, we have to go through the workshop.
Or click on the.
Or click on the thing. It's a secret. But it is well worth it. And we have a number of people in the workshop that have signed up to, we're going to give away a scholarship. And a number of people have sent in their, why they deserve a scholarship. So we'll be awarding a scholarship Monday evening. Mm-hmm. So there we have it. Okay, I think I'm through pretty much everything. I think we are ready for questions.
Oh, that's my cue.
Yep, that's your cue.
Okay, well, why don't you talk about something else while I get up here? Talk about how lovely the weather is.
Yeah, well, it's going to rain today, which is good because I put grass seed down. So that's a good thing. Okay,
so we have a number of questions, Kenny. Let's see. We have the first one is there a steering upgrade and or enhancement to the S197? I think he has no feedback in steering.
S197, it depends. The 5 to 10s have hydraulic steering, and the 11 to 14s have the electric steering. There is for electric steering, I believe there is a motorsport version, but if you're not getting much feedback, I would say that it might have something to do with your front suspension geometry, because in all my cars, those have been with me know I got 3 parts to my S197 suspension, only 3 components: rear grip kit, front grip kit, and springs and shocks. In the front grip kit, I know that there's plenty of feel. I mean, there's plenty of feedback, plenty of feel because of the geometry I introduced into that. So, I mean, I don't know if it's a hydraulic. I mean, we've had some customers build S197 race cars and go to hydraulic just because it's simpler. There is, I believe, there's an upgraded Ford Racing, maybe they still have it. I don't know. But outside that, I mean, you can improve your front geometry and get a whole bunch of feedback. And plus, it turns a whole lot better. Okay?
Okay, here's a question, and it's outside my wheelhouse, so I'll read it. I'm curious if there's a KRC pump for the S197. I have one on my SN95 car and love the feedback it gives.
I don't know for sure because I've never used one. I know that we put one of those pumps on David's S197, but we put an all aluminum 408 Windsor stroker in that. I think you just have to check with KRC and see what they've got. I know they're great pumps. I got no problem with those if you can figure out how to get that on. That would be for the 5 to 10s.
Okay, here we go. Let's see. This is from Jim Flattery. Will this work in cold temperature, cold tracks as well, soft on suspension? I'm not sure that was either when you're talking about the tires.
I think I'm talking about rain.
Yeah, rain.
In cold temperatures on trail, well, if it's too cold, I mean, the tires aren't going to work. But I mean, once you get your tires up to temperature, even if it's a cold day, typically what I do is on a cold day, I'll start out with a couple extra pounds cold pressures so that the tires come up to pressure quicker. But I typically don't make much away as far as suspension adjustments until, remember this, until after I've gone through a session, got my tire pressures exactly where I want them. And then if I need to make adjustments, I'll make adjustments after that. But the only thing I really do on a cool day is add a pound or two extra air for cold pressures. Okay.
Okay. And then the next question that we have is from Dan. And Don, is the Pro 4R Big Brake Kit Autocross streetable package?
It's autocross. As far as streetable, I mean, that's something you'd have to make a decision because it's race brakes. It doesn't have any of the street stuff. So you probably would get some rattling either from the pads or the rotors. But we can come up with pad compounds that are, we got 20 different brake compounds that we have access to. So we can certainly put in there. And for autocross, we want to go down to a soft pad that has real quick initial bite. And we've got a really good pad for that. But yeah, I mean, as far as the street, yes, you can use it on the street. Is there potential for it to do a little rattling? Yes. On track, if the race brakes on track, who cares? As long as they stop the car. It's okay.
Okay, the next one we have is from Rory. Rory is usually on Cars and Coffee every Saturday. So nice to see you, Rory. Even ever use on, I can't remember how that's pronounced, tubing brake lines? And if so, is it allowed on track?
I think what that is, that's the copper lines that's flexible, that's brake pressure rated. I've never used them. We've had a customer too that has. We had a car come in here that they had it on it, and I was kind of concerned until we found out. I thought it was just plain copper tubing until I found out it was the special brake type copper tubing. As far as allowed on track, most like driving clubs, as long as the car is safe, that's all they look at. I mean, they really don't do a full technical inspection on every single part. Now, if you go racing, if you're in a racing series, then the series rules would dictate whether or not you can do that. But I think the advantage of that is it's pretty easy to form and bend. But yeah, there is a good brake pressure rated copper.
Okay, and we also have Don Etcher also has a question on C-clip eliminators for rear big brake kit.
C-clip eliminators, no. You do not want to use those. C-clip eliminators are specifically for drag racing. We've got a couple of options for running big brakes in the back. First of all, it depends on how much movement you've got on the axles. Because the C-clips, in some, it's weird. Some cars have a lot of movement in the axles, some have very little. So it just depends. If you've got almost no movement, pushing the axle in and out, then you'd be okay for big brakes. The easiest remedy for that is we'll take the axle housing and chop off the ends, and we'll weld on there the ends for like a 4 9-inch rear end. And the thing about a 4 9-inch is the bearing actually presses onto the axle. The axle slides into the housing, and there's a plate that goes on and holds it in place. That's like the easiest way to upgrade. And if you've got we've got a couple of guys who like GT 500s, they're concerned about the C-clips and all the horsepower they're running, and they're going upgrading to that. And of course, we have strange builds, custom 9-inch rear end for me. It's set up for road racing, set up for S197 and road racing. There's a bunch of special things they do for me. So I still have their own part number. It comes with, I think, a True Track differential. So you just never ever use C-clips are for drag racing and drag racing only. I never ever put them on a track car or even a street car for that matter.
Okay, here's our next question from Jonathan. On a track day, what tire pressures do you like to start at when dialing it in?
That's a great question, to which I have multiple answers. It's going to depend on your tires, how you drive, and a whole bunch of things. And on my car with on Ruby, my track car with probably easier courses, I'm typically starting at about 32 to 34 on the front, depending on the day, and 20 to 29 in the back. And from there, it's always better to start with a little extra air because it's much easier to pull into the pits and bleed air off to get the pressures right. And of course, I say air, if nitrogen is available, you really should put nitrogen in your tires. It makes a world of difference. But here's the thing, we go through, we'll talk about in the academy, we spend a lot of time on tire pressures. And, once you go through and spend a day adjusting your tire pressures, at the end of the day, after everything cools down, you go back and check what the cold pressures are. And that's your cold starting pressure for the next time you go out. And you always can add, when you got a cold pressure, you can always add like 1 pound extra. Just so that it's tough to add air when you pull into the pits to check your tire temperatures. It's easy to bleed a little bit off. I think I'm going to touch on that Monday night.
Okay. I also want to mention that Brad brilliantly was able to capture the brake template, and there's a link. If you look in the comments, there's a link there, and I think we'll also add it. If you're okay with it, we'll add it to the Speed Therapy Society Resource Center. If you're one of the Speed Therapy Society Facebook group members, there's a resource area in there where there's a whole bunch of documents. Kenny has his track set up, his car preparations sheets, tire temperature,
alignments, all that stuff.
Yeah, a whole bunch of stuff in there. And it's called Guides now, so the Facebook changed the name of it. So if you look on the Speed Therapy Society Facebook group page, under Guides, that's where all the resources are.
Tons of resources for you that I'm going to share.
Yeah, and lots of tech tips and just lots of videos. So look there. It's worth joining it for all that information. Okay, here's our next question. Dale asks, when upgrading upper control arms to adjustable on a 2012 Mustang, is it necessary to replace stock rubber axle bushings to poly also for auto crash use? And is there issues with pinion angle going to aluminum shaft?
I'll work backwards. Going to aluminum drive shaft makes no difference if your pinion angle is right. As far as your upper control arm, I don't use anybody else's. I mean, we have our own. I don't know what happened to the one we had for the we showed the other day.
What are you looking for?
The upper control arm. I think it got put away.
Okay.
When you get my upper control arm, that's all part of the rear grip kit, because everything in the rear grip kit is engineered to work with everything else in the rear grip kit. And my control arm comes pre-adjusted simply because it's longer than factory, and I moved the pickup point. Nope, that's not it. I moved the pickup point, so they come pre-adjusted to the correct adjustment. And then with the rear grip kit, we use a double adjustable lower control arms, so that if you do need to adjust your pinion angle, it's pretty easy to either adjust on the top or the bottom. But the other thing about my control arm, it has a curve to it. It's not straight. And the reason it has a curve is because if you're running your car low and you hit a big bump, what's going to happen is that control arm is going to whack into the car tunnel. So I think I'm the only person that, here's a control arm. You can see that it's got a curve to it, and that's specifically to clear the body under a big bump. And then what the other part replacing, necessary to replace stock rubber. Actually, we leave the. You never want to change axle bushings to poly ever. Never, ever, 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 unless you're drag racing. The reason for that is that polyurethane is only good for things that move straight up and down. Okay, like front control arms. They're perfect for front control arms. They're perfect for sway bars. They are not perfect for rear control arms, just simply because if you have a poly bushing in a control arm, you stick a bolt through that and you try to twist, it doesn't twist. And a rear axle needs to move, it needs to articulate. And if you got polyurethane bushings in the back, I mean, the car is going to move so far, the axle is going to rotate so far, and then it's going to stop moving, and that's when the car gets loose. So you never ever want to put poly bushings in. As far as what we do in the rear grip kit is we leave the rubber bushing on the top of the axle, and everything else is super high quality rod ends, Teflon lined, so that don't get any rattle noise. Certainly you're going to pick up a little bit of road noise, but no rattle noise. So there's kind of answer like a whole bunch of questions in one answer.
Here's another big question, and this is from GM Guy, which is cool. Question about brake cooling. It says Mustang. I thought he has a Camaro too. My Mustang, 99% track car. I put on traditional brake ducting. My Camaro, 90% street. I'm looking at the brake air scoops with the SS ducts from the bumper blowing air into the deflector, then in the inside of the rotor. What's your thoughts on these deflectors versus the hoses?
Okay, if it's a street car, I mean, I have to go by your description because I've not seen one, so I'm not looking at it. Most of the time for street applications, the deflectors are pretty good. On track, they're not so good. I mean, on track, you really want to have brake ducts to keep your brakes cool. But I've seen like Porsche has been using deflectors on their cars for years, and their cars go both street and track. I mean, the real race cars they put brake ducts on, but I think as long as air is getting to the eye of the rotor, you want air in the center of the rotor because rotors cool from the center out. So I would think it would be okay. Not seeing them, just guessing that if it's 90% street, it should be okay. And the 10% that's on track, just make sure you got really good brake rotors that'll take temperature.
Okay, and I just want to
really good brake pads that will take temperature.
And just so you can see that we do in the comments, we have the link to the brake template if you'd like that.
Yeah, that kind of shows you that's just one sample. We also have it for our the Pro Plus, the Street Performance 6-piston setup, and then the Extreme Plus, which is the 6-piston, the heavy duty 6-piston street setup.
Here's our next question. Does Kenny have a preferred rear differential for Mustang? Does that diff preference change for autocross versus road race?
We use Torsons. I mean, we've been started using Torsen in '99 with the Cobras, and we've been using them ever since. One thing we run into is there's a couple of different kinds of Torsons. You've got for my rear suspension, you have to use the better one because in just the base Torsen, what happens is we take all the numbness comes out of the rear suspension, and under braking, in some instances, the diff doesn't know because it's torque sensing. It doesn't know where the torque needs to be. It keeps switching it back and forth, which first happens, it's unnerving, but you kind of get used to it. The better Torsons, that doesn't happen. But yeah, we use Torsen for everything. I mean, torque sensing, because you need, think about torque sensing, there's no clutches, there's a whole bunch of worm gears that run around in a circle, and it will direct engine torque to the tire that has the most grip, and proportionally, if you got, so I use Torsen for everything.
Okay, and Colby says, can you install ARP wheel studs without removing the hubs axles on an S197?
Yes, but I wouldn't recommend it. You really need to be able to get a lot of leverage, either press them in or pound them in from the backside. I can tell you that in 24-hour races, I have changed wheel studs in the pits, and by taking and putting some WD-40 on the stud, sticking it through, getting a spacer, and putting a lug nut on backwards, and drawing it in. If not, a 24-hour race in the pits in the dark, I mean, that's your only option. I really wouldn't recommend it. I mean, and it's not that easy. Just pull the hub off. Take a hammer and knock the studs out and flip it over, put the other ones in and whack them in. So.
Okay, so we have a question from Joan. This is
axles is a little tougher.
This is interesting. Joe Johnson. By the way, we have a lot of Academy alumni in the group again. Isn't it awesome? So Joe Johnson, would your front brake kit system fit on a 2020 Shelby GT350? I think they would fit inside my 19.6 GR wheels. The stock brake pads are really thin to fit the stock caliper and rotor. I love the 1-inch pads like the ones I had on my Boss 302. Not sure that it would have the same braking performance as I have with the OEM brakes, but I'm sure the pads would last longer.
We do not.
Is it something you can?
It's something I can check into, though. I can check with Bear and see what the possibility would be.
Because that would be good.
If we did that, it'd probably be on a 15-inch rotor, though. Wouldn't be on 14s. Yeah, let me check into that, because we do have like a super monster brake for the 550s, for the GTs. That's a 15 by 1.4-inch rotor, which is like Trans Am race car size.
So those are available, but
and the calipers are like 14.5 inches tall. I mean, they're big, but the pad is based off of an OE pad, so it's not as thick as our track pads, but it's huge. I mean, it's just a huge brake pad.
But that might be pretty interesting in bringing the Pro 4Rs up in the 20. I don't know. We're so busy, we didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'll check on that for you.
but if nothing else, we have the monster pads.
Monster brakes, they're mostly for GTs because they don't have the good brake as the 350s.
Okay. Here we go from Steve Smith. Are stock wheel studs suitable for track days?
Sure. As long as you don't over torque them and you keep a little lubrication on there. If you're repeatedly doing track days and you got a little like some anti-seize on there, I usually torque them 95 pounds, and that seems to work pretty good. I got a tip.
So as Kenny's getting that, you might hear we're having a big rainstorm, and we're in the shop, in the corner of our shop, so you may hear some noise.
Yeah, and I'm really happy because I've got grass seed down and it's been dry. I haven't made water this week because of the workshop. Okay, this is my tip, and you can make your own decisions. But when it comes to torquing wheels at the track, I never ever. I mean, I've got some really, really good, really expensive snap-on torque wrenches, and as you know, there's my old toolbox back there that I take with me. It's been with me for 40 years, and actually the torque wrench is down inside the toolbox behind me. But to the track, I go to Harbor Freight, and I get their torque wrenches. And the reason I do that, they're inexpensive. For torquing wheels, they're reasonably active, and they're basically cheap. Because at the track, what I have found is torque wrenches get dropped, borrowed, lost, run over, or forgotten about. And that's why I never take a good torque wrench. I go to Harbor Freight, and especially when I'm on sale, I actually stock up on them so that, I don't have problems. So a good, cheap torque wrench is what you want to take to the track with you, not your good, expensive one. Okay.
Oh, here's the one right here. On a performance streetcar limited autocross, is your spring and shock package good enough, or do I need to do your coilover kit? Don't know what's.
Yeah, pretty much all of 90% of our springs and shocks are all coilover. I prefer coilover because I can get the right spring rate that I need. We do have a package that's mostly for like touring package that uses like a Coney sports strut, and I do get some springs that have some decent spring rate in them. They got like a 325 front, which is perfect for sport touring. But you always need to match shocks and springs, and that's something we go into great depth in the academy, matching spring rate and shocks. But it's something I think that might be worth signing up for a 15-minute consult with me, and I can kind of talk you through that and see what you're looking for and what you need to do and what might be your best options.
So if you're wondering how to sign up for a 15-minute consult, look in the comments here, and Bridget will be posting a link to the 15-minute consult with Kenny. It shows a schedule, and you can pick a time when he's available. About steering, I'm swapping electric steering for the 1314 Mustang. My KB K-frame has the attachment points for the third bolt. So other than tapping 2 canvas wires, it's all bolt in.
There you go. Yeah, our K-member, S197 K-member, the front grip kit is set up for either hydraulic or electric. So, and I know that they've got kits now, the standalone kits that you can convert to the EPS, which is kind of cool.
Okay. Also, I think you missed my first question from early in the session. If I hand carry the IRS frame in from upgrades, is there an option to tour your facility? I probably really nerd out there.
Sort of, not really. I mean, you can see us, but we're like split into 3 different buildings. So, and some of the buildings are, you know, they're manufacturing. So as far as insurance, we couldn't do that.
Once we get in, we're going to be moving into a larger facility. Once we get in there, we can probably.
Yeah, our goal for this year is to get into a larger facility. You know, for those that don't know, that, you know, we moved back to Indianapolis after a bad relationship in Chicago to restart our parts program, and I wanted to be close to our manufacturing, so we took a space that was like almost next door, but it's not very big. But we got all our products back in. It just makes it handy because I can just walk down and work on new products. So yeah, that's our goal this year, is to put together a program and get into a bigger facility.
We need it. We're out.
Yeah, we're so desperate. We are so out of space.
Okay, let's see. Cliff. Okay, you said not to over torque wheel nuts. What torque do you suggest for wheel nuts? S197 and other track day cars.
I use 95 pounds. I mean, it's you talk to 5 different people, you get 5 different answers. But I typically use 95 pounds. It seems to work pretty good. And you always want to use, like, if you use ARP studs, you always want to get like hard lug nuts just to match up with them.
And here's a comment on your torque wrench. Roy says he prefers a torque tube socket.
Does not ring a bell.
Okay.
But if you prefer that and it works, you know, I have a philosophy. Anything that works is good.
Okay, we have somebody else wanting a virtual shop tour. Okay, once we're in our new facility, we'll give you a virtual
tour. I mean, we need. We really need to get. I mean, we are so out of space. We need a new shop. I got an amazing amount of new products that need to get developed. So I mean, like I say, that's our top priority. We got all of our core products back online in production, and we've got the new suspension, which took a huge amount of effort to get that into production. So now our next thing is we need to work at getting into a bigger space.
Yeah, in fact, this is right here is our little corner for the studio. Once we get in the new facility, Kenny will have a dedicated lift to do cars and coffee on, so I'll be able to show you items on cars.
I will.
Yeah. So anyway, that's it for our questions for today. Just wanted to let you know again that if you would like to join the Transform Your Driving Experience workshop, it's not too late. And those of you that took the course and haven't been able to view all 3 sessions from this past week, we are doing replays on the Speed Therapy Society Facebook group page. Tomorrow you'll be able to see all the replays. And if you register, Bridget will put a link up right now for the workshop. You can still get in and view them all tomorrow, and then show up for the Monday bonus session at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, and that's all taking place in the Speed Therapy Society Facebook group. So you need to join that group if you're interested.
Yeah, I actually have for Monday night is like, I didn't get to a whole bunch of stuff because, as you guys know, once I get going, I kind of like share too much information. But Monday night is going to be putting it all together, getting ready for the street, getting ready for the track, some maintenance checks, some setup tips, and taking the next steps as far as where your car wants to go. So if you haven't been for the rest, at least sign up for Monday night. You'll get anytime any of my things are. I really hope you get good information, because that's what I try to do and share. Because I can't take it with me.
And then again, the Speed Therapy Academy, the next session is starting on the 20th.
20th of April,
Of April. We're really excited about that. It's 16 weeks, 2 nights a week,
Tuesdays and Thursdays,
Tuesdays
7
and
o'clock.
Thursdays. And do you want to tell more about it, or you want me to?
Yeah, I mean, Tuesday night is what we call immersion. And like I say, this is on Zoom, so I got the Brady bunch. I'm seeing all our guys. We haven't had a gal yet, but that'd be kind of cool. All our guys there, and it's Zoom, so we talk back and forth. And I'll take a subject, just like like shocks, and take a deep dive into different types of shocks, how they work, how to adjust shocks and things like that, and how they match up with springs. We do 2 weeks of aero study. We did 2 weeks of geometry, suspension geometry, and it's Tuesday is like the immersion. And when I don't get down Tuesday, sometimes carries over to Thursday. The other things we do on Thursday, twice a month, we'll have a master class where one of my friends from the industry will come in and give a little talk about their level of expertise. I think Steve mentioned that in his little thing. And then they get about 20 minutes talk, and then our guys ask questions for the next however long. So it's kind of, again, that's pretty interactive. And then sometimes we'll have what we call the driver's seat, where one of our guys, one of our can we call them students or participants or participants?
Family.
We'll go into, quote, the driver's seat, and if they got issues or need something talked about on their car, then I'll talk about it, and then everybody can participate in that too. So it's pretty cool, and there's a whole bunch of benefits. You get your shirt, you get your notebook, you get some stickers, and you get a certificate of accomplishment at the end.
And the exclusivity of being in the Speed Therapy
And the
Academy.
exclusivity of being in the Speed Therapy Academy. And if you can ask any of the guys out there, just that alone is worth the price of admission.
Yeah, it's pretty cost effective for what you get, and also take the time to take it. If this is something that interests you and you want to improve your driving experience either on street or track, this is the way to go. There's nothing else out there like
this.
this.
The Academy, you're not improving your driving experience, you're upping it a whole bunch of levels.
Yeah.
Because I keep telling people the 2 worst places to get information for your car is the internet and the paddock. Well, you go through the Academy, and you're going to show up at the paddock, and you're going to look like you're the pro from Dover. You're going to know what to do, how to do it, adjusting your car, adjusting your tires, and people are going to watch you, and you're going to go fast. And they're going, holy cow, who is that guy?
Exactly.
Or gal.
Yeah.
Okay, is that it?
Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, one more thing. We haven't, because we've been so busy with the workshop and planning for the Academy, we haven't come up with subjects for next week's Cars and Coffee. So if you have anything you want Kenny to talk about, add it now, or else you can add it in the Speed Therapy Society comments.
Yeah, because I talk about what you guys want to talk about. You can see that what we talked about today all stemmed from questions that came from through the Speed Therapy Society or through the Facebook page. So you want me to talk about something you have interest in, send it in, and I'll do the best I can to share some information with you. So with that, I think we're done for the day. I'm going to go look at the wonderful rain and hope my grass seed comes up because of the Transforming Your Driving Experience workshop. I didn't get to water my lawn at all this week, or seed. So I'm thankful, even though it's a weekend, and I'll take the rain. So listen, everybody have a good weekend. I hope it's sun shining where you are. We're getting drenched right now, but I'll see you next.